Park Min-ho walked down the long hallway toward the Grand Assembly Chamber. His black shoes made soft sounds on the smooth metal floor. The walls around him showed pictures of all the great moments in Galactic Council history. Wars that ended, in peace. New worlds joining the Council. Trade deals that made everyone rich. None of the pictures showed humans. Min-ho had walked this same path for 30 years. He was Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. Today would be his last day in this job. Today would be the last day any human held this job. The doors to the Grand Assembly opened with a quiet hiss. Inside, hundreds of aliens sat in curved rows that went up to the ceiling. The Zephyrians had blue skin and 4 arms. The Korthak looked like giant lizards. The Etherians were tall and thin with silver eyes. There were dozens of other species, too. All of them were talking. None of them looked happy to see him. Min-ho walked to the center of the room. A circle of light shone down on him from above. He could feel thousands of eyes watching him. Some looked angry. Some looked bored. Most looked like they thought he was wasting their time. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Min-ho said. His voice was calm and clear. "I come before you today to deliver an important message from Earth and all human colonies." Counselor Veltar stood up in the front row. He was a Zephyrian with bright blue skin and gold robes. His 4 arms moved as he talked. "We already know what you want, human. You want us to change our decision about your military request. The answer is still no." Other aliens nodded and made sounds of agreement. Min-ho had expected this. 3 days ago, the Council had voted on Earth's request to build more defense ships. Humans had asked for permission to protect their outer colonies from raiders and unknown threats. The vote was 847 against and only 23 in favor. "I am not here to ask you to change your vote," Min-ho said. "I am here to tell you that Earth is leaving the Galactic Council." The room went quiet. For a moment, no one made any sound at all. Then everyone started talking at once. "Leaving?" shouted a Korthak representative. "You cannot just leave." "This is foolish," said an Etherian. "Where will you go?" Veltar raised all 4 of his arms for quiet. "This is clearly an emotional reaction," he said. "Humans are known for making quick decisions when they are upset. We will give you time to think about this properly." Min-ho shook his head. "This decision took us 5 years to make. It is not emotional, it is practical." He touched a button on his wrist device. A hologram appeared in the air above him. It showed numbers and dates and votes. "In the last 30 years, humans have made 1,247 proposals to this council," Min-ho said. Only 31 were approved. Most were about basic things like trade routes and research sharing. The hologram changed to show more numbers. "Humans have been banned from 67 council committees. We are not allowed to bid on 89% of council construction projects. Our scientists are not permitted to join most research teams." "That is for good reasons," Veltar interrupted. "Human technology is primitive. Your ideas are dangerous. You are too aggressive." Min-ho looked at him calmly. 3 years ago, Dr. Kim Yuna discovered a way to make hyperspace travel 40% faster. The council rejected her proposal without testing it. They said it was too risky for developed species to try. The hologram showed a picture of Dr. Kim Yuna in her lab. She was a small woman with kind eyes and gray hair. She had spent her whole life studying space travel. Last year, Captain Lee Tae-ho warned this council about strange energy readings from the void sector. He asked for permission to send scout ships to investigate. The request was denied. The council said humans were seeing threats that do not exist. More pictures appeared. Captain Lee Tae-ho in his uniform. The energy readings his ships had detected. Maps showing the void sector at the edge of known space. 6 months ago, Earth offered to share our new medical research with all council species. The research could help treat the red plague that is spreading through Korthak space. The council voted to study the proposal further. People are still dying while you study. Veltar's blue skin was getting darker. He was angry. "These are all examples of proper caution. Your species is young and reckless. You have only been in space for 200 years. We have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. We know better than you do what is safe." "Perhaps," Min-ho said. "But we know what we can and cannot do. And we can no longer do this." He touched his wrist device again. The hologram disappeared. As of today, all human representatives are leaving Council space. All human colonies in Council territory will be evacuated. All human businesses will close their Council operations. All human scientists will withdraw from Council projects. The sea room erupted in noise again. Aliens were shouting and arguing with each other. "You cannot do this," Veltar yelled over the noise. "You have treaties. You have obligations." "We have read all our treaties very carefully," Minho said. Article 347 of the Council Charter allows any member species to withdraw with 6 months' notice. We are giving you 8 months' notice. All human obligations will be fulfilled before we leave. An old Etherian female stood up. Her name was Counselor Thyluna. She was one of the few aliens who had always been polite to humans. "Ambassador Park," she said, "surely we can work together to solve these problems. The Council has made mistakes, yes, but leaving will not help anyone." Minho looked at her with respect. "Counselor Thyluna, you have always been fair to my people. But fairness from one person cannot fix a broken system. For 30 years, humans have tried to be good council members. We have followed your rules. We have accepted your decisions. We have stayed quiet when we disagreed." He paused and looked around the room. "But we cannot protect our people if we are not allowed to build defenses. We cannot help the galaxy if our ideas are always rejected. We cannot grow as a species if we are always treated like children." "Where will you go?" asked a small alien from the back rows. "Space is dangerous without Council protection." Minho smiled for the first time since entering the room. "Humans are very good at surviving in dangerous places. We will find our own way." Veltar stood up again. His 4 arms were shaking with anger. "Fine! Leave! The Council does not need primitive humans. Your technology is worthless. Your ideas are stupid. We are better off without you." Many other aliens made sounds of agreement, but Minho noticed that some looked worried. The smart ones understood that humans did a lot of work that kept the Council running smoothly. "Thank you for your time," Minho said with a polite bow. "The formal withdrawal documents have been sent to all Council offices. Human ships will begin leaving tomorrow." He turned and walked toward the door. Behind him, the aliens continued to argue. "Good riddance," Veltar shouted. "Do not come crawling back when you realize your mistake." Minho stopped at the door and looked back one last time. "Goodbye, Counselor Veltar. I hope you remember this day fondly." Then he walked out of the Grand Assembly for the last time. In the hallway, Dr. Kim Yuna was waiting for him. She looked sad but determined. "Is it done?" she asked. "It is done," Minho said. "How are the preparations going?" "Better than expected," she said as they walked together toward the docking bay. "Captain Lee's ships are already loading the first groups of colonists. The new hyperspace drives are working perfectly." "And the other project?" Minho asked quietly. Kim Yuna smiled. "The other project is ahead of schedule. The Council is going to be very surprised when they see what humans can really do." They reached the docking bay where a sleek human ship was waiting. It looked different from Council ships. Smoother, more advanced. "Any regrets?" Kim Yuna asked as they walked up the boarding ramp. Minho thought about all the years he had spent trying to make peace with aliens who did not respect his people. All the good ideas that had been rejected. All the problems that could have been solved if the Council had listened. "No regrets," he said. "It is time for humans to make their own path." The ship's engines hummed to life. Through the windows they could see other human ships leaving the station. One by one they jumped to hyperspace and disappeared. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued to argue about whether losing the humans really mattered. They would find out soon enough. 6 months had passed since Park Minho walked out of the Grand Assembly. The galaxy was quiet about the human departure. Most aliens had already forgotten about it. After all, humans were just one small species among hundreds in the Council. But if anyone had been watching carefully, they would have seen something amazing happening. Admiral Choi Hyuk stood on the bridge of the starship New Seoul. Around him, dozens of screens showed human ships moving through space. "Not just a few ships, thousands of them. Status report," he said to his communications officer. "Fleet Group 7 has cleared the Antares sector, sir," Lieutenant Nam Do-yoon reported. "That's the last of the civilian transports from the outer colonies and the industrial stations. Engineer Seo Jiwon's teams finished dismantling the mining platforms yesterday. Everything useful has been loaded onto cargo ships. Choi Hyok nodded. The evacuation was going perfectly. Every human colony, research station, and trading post in Council space was being emptied. But they weren't just running away. They were taking everything with them. The humans had spent decades building things in Council space, factories that made computer chips, research labs that studied alien diseases, mining stations that pulled rare metals from asteroids. The Council had let humans build these things because they made everyone money. Now all of it was gone. "Sir," said another officer, "we're getting a transmission from the Council station at Rigel 7. They want to know why the medical research lab suddenly went dark." "Tell them the lab was shut down for maintenance," Choi Hyok said. "Don't mention that we took all the equipment with us." The officer smiled. "Yes, sir." On her own ship nearby, engineer Seo Jiwon was working on something much more important than moving equipment. She stood in a special lab that was filled with strange machines. Blue energy flowed between metal towers. Computer screens showed equations that would have confused the smartest Council scientists. "How's the new drive system looking?" asked her assistant, Dr. Yang Sunmi. "Better than we hoped," Jiwon said. She pointed to a screen that showed a 3D model of a ship engine. "The quantum phase drive can move us 10 times faster than Council hyperspace technology, and they still don't know we have it." Yang Sunmi looked worried. "Are you sure we should keep this secret? Maybe if we showed the Council what we can do, they would treat us better?" Jiwon shook her head. "We tried sharing our technology for 30 years. They always said it was too dangerous or too primitive. Now they'll find out what they missed." She walked over to another machine. This one was even stranger. It looked like a metal egg surrounded by spinning rings. Energy danced around it like lightning. "The Pioneer project is almost ready," she said. "Soon we'll be able to travel to places the Council never imagined." While the engineers worked on secret technology, Captain Nam Do-yun was doing something equally important. His ship was small and fast, painted black to hide in space. It was designed for scouting and spying. "Take us to the edge of the void sector," he told his pilot. "Sir, that area is restricted by Council law," the pilot said. "Council law doesn't apply to us anymore," Nam Do-hyun replied. His ship jumped to hyperspace and appeared near the edge of known space. Here, the stars were dim and far apart. Strange energy clouds drifted between empty planets. It was a place that made most aliens nervous, but Nam Do-hyun's sensors were picking up something interesting. "There," he said, pointing to his screen. "Do you see those energy patterns?" His science officer, Lieutenant Park Gina, studied the readings. "It looks like movement, sir. Something big moving through the void." "How big?" "Planet-sized, sir. Maybe bigger." Nam Do-hyun frowned. This was what Captain Lee Tae-ho had tried to warn the Council about. Strange things moving in the empty spaces between galaxies. The Council had said Lee was imagining threats that didn't exist. "Send a coded message to Admiral Choi," Nam Do-hyun said. "Tell him we've confirmed the void readings, and tell him we need to move faster." Back on the New Sol, Admiral Choi Hyok received the message and felt a chill run down his spine. The humans had discovered something dangerous in the void sector. Something the Council didn't know about and wouldn't listen to warnings about. "Change of plans," he announced to his fleet. "All ships will accelerate evacuation procedures. We need to be gone from Council space within 2 months, not 6. "Sir, that's very fast," Lieutenant Nam said. "Some of the colonies are still packing their research." "Tell them to pack faster," Choi Hyok said, "and tell them to destroy anything they can't take with them. I don't want the Council to have any of our work." Meanwhile, Director Yang Sunmi was coordinating the most important part of the evacuation. In hidden bases throughout human space, thousands of the smartest humans were working on projects the Council never knew about. Dr. Han Woo-jin was studying alien biology in ways that would have shocked Council scientists. He had found ways to make human bodies stronger and faster. Ways to help humans survive in space without suits. Ways to link human minds with computers. "The enhancement programs are ready for Phase 2, he reported to Yang Sunmi. "We can begin improving volunteers as soon as we reach the new colony sites." "And the AI networks?" "Beyond anything the Council has ever seen. Our computers can think and learn and adapt. They'll help us build a civilization that makes the Council look primitive. Yang Sunmi smiled. Good. How long until we can activate the Pioneer project? 3 weeks, maybe less. In Council space, most aliens still didn't realize what was happening. They saw human ships leaving and assumed the humans were just going to set up new colonies somewhere else in the galaxy. Some council members were even happy about it. Good riddance, Councillor Veltar said to his aide. Now we don't have to listen to their constant complaining anymore. But a few aliens were starting to worry. Councillor Thyluna noticed that her medical research had slowed down. The humans had been doing most of the actual work while the alien scientists took credit for the results. Without them, progress was much slower. A Korthak trade official realized that several important trade routes had suddenly become much more expensive. The humans had been running shipping companies that kept costs low. Now, those companies were gone. An Etherian factory manager found out that his computer systems were breaking down more often. The human technicians who used to fix them had all left. The replacement technicians from other species weren't as good at their jobs. But these were small problems, nothing that seemed important. Until the first emergency call came in. It was from a mining colony on the edge of Council space. The colony's life support systems were failing. The air recyclers weren't working. The water purifiers were broken. People were going to die if help didn't come soon. Send a repair team immediately, the Council emergency coordinator ordered. Sir, his assistant said nervously. The repair team was human. They were the only ones who knew how to fix those particular systems. The coordinator stared at him. Then find someone else. We're trying, sir. But the human technicians designed those systems. No one else knows how they work. Similar problems started happening all over Council space. Computer networks crashed, and no one knew how to restart them. Medical equipment stopped working, and no one knew how to repair it. Transport ships broke down in space and had to call for help. For 30 years, humans had been quietly doing thousands of small jobs that kept Council civilization running. They fixed things, designed things, organized things. They did the boring, work that other species didn't want to do. Now they were gone, and the galaxy was starting to fall apart. On the new Sol, Admiral Choi Hyok received daily reports about the chaos in Council space. He felt no satisfaction from their problems. If anything, he felt sad. We could help them, Lieutenant Nam suggested. Send some technicians back to fix the critical systems. No, Choi Hyok said firmly. We offered to help for 30 years. They told us our help wasn't needed. They can solve their own problems now. But people might die, sir. People are dying because the Council was too proud to listen to good advice. That's not our fault. 3 weeks later, engineer Co Jiwon activated the Pioneer project. In hidden labs throughout human space, massive machines hummed to life. Energy flowed through quantum tunnels that connected one galaxy to another. Space itself bent and twisted, as the humans opened a doorway to somewhere impossibly far away. Portal is stable, Jiwon reported to Admiral Choi Hyok. We can begin the final phase of evacuation. Where does it lead? He asked. Andromeda Galaxy Cluster, she said with a smile. 2.5 million light-years from here. Far enough that the Council will never find us. One by one, the human ships lined up to pass through the portal. Families with children, scientists with their research, soldiers with their weapons, engineers with their tools. They were leaving behind the only home their species had ever known. But they were not running away in fear. They were walking toward a future they would build themselves. Captain Nam Do-hyun's scout ship was one of the last to leave. As he prepared to enter the portal, he sent one final message toward Council space. This is Captain Nam Do-hyun of the Human Colonial Fleet, he said. We are departing for regions unknown. We leave behind a galaxy that never appreciated what we offered. We hope you find the peace and prosperity you seek without us. 2 years had passed since the humans left. The Galactic Council had learned to live without them, though it wasn't easy. Systems broke down more often. Trade was more expensive. Research moved more slowly, but life went on. Councillor Veltar sat in his office reading reports about the growing problems in Council space. Equipment failures were up 300%. Emergency repair calls happened every day. Some colonies were asking for help with basic maintenance. Maybe we relied on the humans. More than we thought, his aide suggested. Nonsense, Veltar said, though he didn't sound as sure as before. These are just temporary problems. We're better off without those aggressive primitives. He was trying to convince himself as much as his aide. That's when the first alarm started. Ringing. Lieutenant Kethmos was a reptilian military officer stationed at the edge of Council space. His job was to watch for pirates and raiders who might attack the outer colonies. It was usually boring work. Today was different. "Sir," his sensor operator called out, "I'm reading massive energy signatures from the void sector." Kethmos walked over to look at the screen. "How massive?" "Bigger than anything in our database, sir. It's like entire stars are moving." The screen showed a map of space near the galactic edge. Normally, this area was empty and dark. Now it was filled with swirling clouds of energy that pulsed with their own light. "Could it be a natural phenomenon?" Kethmos asked. "Some kind of stellar collapse?" "I don't think so, sir. The patterns look organized, like something is controlling them." As they watched, the energy clouds began to move. They flowed through space like a liquid, reaching out toward the nearest star systems. Where they touched, stars began to dim. "Get me a connection to Council Command," Kethmos ordered. "Priority 1. But before he could send his message, something happened that made his blood run cold. The energy clouds noticed his ship. A tendril of dark energy reached out across millions of miles in seconds. It touched the hull of Kethmos' ship and began to spread like infection. The metal walls started to change color. Instruments began failing. "All power to engines!" Kethmos shouted. "Get us out of here!" His ship jumped to hyperspace just as the dark energy tried to engulf them. They escaped, but barely. When they arrived at the nearest council base, Kethmos immediately sent an emergency report to the Grand Assembly. The message was simple, but terrifying. "Unknown hostile entities emerging from Void Sector. Request immediate military response." The Council's reaction was slow and confused. Most members had never heard of the Void Sector. Those who had remembered that humans used to worry about it, but humans worried about everything. "We need more information," Counselor Thyluna said during the emergency session. "Send a scout fleet to investigate." "I volunteer to lead it," said General Martok, an experienced Korthak military commander. 3 days later, General Martok led 12 of the Council's best warships toward the Void Sector. They were equipped with the most advanced weapons and shields the Council could build. It wasn't enough. The first ship was destroyed before it could even fire a shot. A wave of dark energy washed over it, and the entire vessel simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, erased, as if it had never been built. "All ships, open fire," Martok ordered. The Council ships launched their best weapons, plasma cannons that could melt asteroids, particle beams that could cut through any armor, quantum torpedoes that could crack open planets. The weapons hit the dark entities and did nothing. The energy simply absorbed the attacks and grew stronger. "Retreat!" Martok yelled, but it was too late. The entities had learned how to fight back. Beams of pure darkness shot out from the energy clouds. They passed through the Council ship's shields like the shields weren't there. Where they touched, metal turned to dust. Computers stopped working, life support systems failed. Only 3 ships escaped. General Martok's was not one of them. The news of the military disaster spread panic through Council space. An enemy that could destroy their best ships without effort was beyond anything they had faced before. "We need to mobilize everything," Veltar said during another emergency session. "Every ship, every weapon, every soldier." "It won't be enough," said Dr. Zarkemp, a scientist who had studied the sensor readings from the battle. "These entities don't follow normal physical laws. Our weapons are designed to fight matter. These things are pure energy." "Then what do you suggest?" Thyluna asked. "I don't know," the scientist admitted. "This is completely outside our experience." While the Council argued, the entities continued to advance. They moved from star to star, consuming everything in their path. Planets were drained of life. Space stations vanished without a trace. Entire civilizations disappeared overnight. The entities seemed to be learning as they attacked. Each world they consumed made them smarter and stronger. They began to adapt to Council weapons before the weapons were even fired. On the planet Nexus, prime civilian leaders were arguing about evacuation plans. "We need to move the population to the inner colonies," said Refugee Coordinator Marsol. "The outer worlds are falling too fast." "Where will we put them all?" asked another official. "The inner colonies are already overcrowded. Then we'll have To make room, Marsal said, because the alternative is watching them die. Ships packed with refugees began flooding toward the center of Council space. Millions of aliens fled their homes with nothing but the clothes they wore. The lucky ones made it to safety. The unlucky ones were caught by the advancing darkness. The entities moved like a plague across the galaxy. They consumed matter and energy, growing larger and more powerful with each world they destroyed. They seemed to have no goal except endless consumption. But the worst part was how they fought. Every time the Council tried a new weapon or strategy, the entities adapted to it within hours. Plasma weapons stopped working. Energy shields became useless. Even nuclear weapons had no effect. It was as if the entities could think and learn faster than any biological mind. "We're fighting an enemy that becomes immune to everything we throw at it," reported Admiral Velkash after losing another fleet. "Every battle makes them stronger and us weaker." The Council's military leaders were desperate. They tried combining fleets from different species, hoping that variety might work better than single-species tactics. It didn't help. They tried hit-and-run attacks instead of direct battles. The entities learned to predict their movements. They tried avoiding the entities completely, hoping to wait them out. The entities just consumed more worlds while they waited. "We need a completely new approach," Thyluna said during yet another emergency meeting. "Something the entities have never seen before." "Like what?" Veltar asked. "We've tried everything." Dr. Zarkemp stood up slowly. He looked tired and defeated. "Actually, we haven't tried everything. We haven't tried human technology." The room went silent. "The humans are gone," Veltar said. "And good riddance. Their primitive weapons wouldn't work any better than ours." "Are you sure about that?" Zarkemp asked. He activated a hologram that showed technical readouts. "I've been studying the equipment the humans left behind. What I found is disturbing." The hologram showed the inside of a human computer, but it didn't look like any computer the Council had ever built. The circuits were arranged in patterns. That seemed almost organic. The processing cores used quantum effects that Council science barely understood. "This is from a simple human transport ship," Zarkemp explained. "The computer technology is at least 50 years ahead of anything we have." He changed the display to show a human weapon. "This is a standard human plasma rifle. It uses adaptive AO targeting that adjusts its beam frequency in real time. It can modify itself to penetrate any type of armor." More images appeared. Human engines that bent space in impossible ways. Human medical equipment that could regrow entire organs. Human communications gear that worked faster than light without using hyperspace. "How is this possible?" Thyluna asked. "We examined human technology for decades. It always seemed primitive." "They showed us their primitive technology," Zarkemp said. "They kept the advanced stuff hidden." Veltar stood up angrily. "This is ridiculous. Humans are a young species. They've only been in space for 200 years. "Yes," Zarkemp said quietly. "And in 200 years, they advanced further than we did in 2,000 years. While we were maintaining the same old technology, they were innovating. While we were following tradition, they were experimenting." He paused and looked around the room. I threw away the one species that might have been able to help us." The truth of his words hung in the air like poison. The Council had rejected human ideas for 30 years. They had called humans primitive and dangerous. They had driven away the one species that thought differently enough to fight an enemy like this. "Can we contact them?" Thyluna asked hopefully. "We don't know where they went," Zarkemp replied. "They use some kind of portal technology that we don't understand. They could be anywhere in the universe." Outside the meeting room, the latest casualty reports were coming in. 12 more worlds had fallen. The entities were moving faster now, consuming entire star systems in days instead of weeks. The Council's territory was shrinking. Their fleets were being destroyed. Their people were fleeing in panic. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the entities continued their endless advance. 3 years after the humans left, half of Council space was gone. Emergency Chancellor Thyluna looked at the map on her office wall. Red zones marked areas consumed by the entities. Yellow zones showed regions under attack. Green zones were still safe, but there weren't many green zones left. "Status report," she said to her aide. "We've lost contact with sectors 7 through 15, the aide reported. "The Korthak homeworld fell yesterday. The Zephyrian colonies are requesting immediate evacuation." Thyluna closed her eyes. The Korthak had been one of the founding species of the Council. Their civilization was 3,000 years old. Now it was gone, consumed by dark entities that no one understood. How many refugees this week? 40 million, Chancellor. The processing centers are overwhelmed. Thyluna walked to her window and looked out at the space around Council Central. Thousands of refugee ships filled the void between planets. More arrived every hour, carrying the survivors of dead worlds. There was a knock at her door. "Enter," she called. Dr. Zarkemp walked in, carrying a datapad and looking exhausted. He had been working without sleep for weeks, trying to find some way to fight the entities. "I have news," he said. "Good news and bad news." "Give me the good news first." "I found something in the abandoned human research facility on Rigel 7. The humans were studying something they called void physics. It's completely different from our science." Zarkemp activated his datapad. A hologram appeared showing equations that hurt to look at. The mathematics seemed to twist and bend in ways that defied logic. "The humans discovered that the entities aren't just energy beings," he explained. "They exist in multiple dimensions at once. That's why our weapons don't work. We're only hitting the part of them that exists in our dimension." "And the bad news?" "The research is incomplete. The humans were just starting to understand void physics when they left. What we have here is like finding half a book." Thyluna felt hope and despair at the same time. Finally, they had found something that might help. But it was too little, too late. "Is there any way to complete the research?" "Not without human help," Zarkemp admitted. "Their way of thinking is too different from ours. We process information linearly. They process it in patterns we can't follow." Before Thyluna could respond, alarms started ringing throughout the building. Red lights flashed. Emergency announcements echoed through the halls. "Entity breakthrough. In Sector 3, the computer announced. All civilians evacuate immediately." Thyluna and Zarkemp ran to the command center. On the main screen, they could see the dark entities flowing through space like a river of death. They were only 2 star systems away from Council Central. "How did they move so fast?" Thyluna asked. "They're learning to use our own hyperspace networks against us," Admiral Velkosh replied. "They follow our ships back to their bases." The Admiral looked defeated. He had lost more fleets than any military commander in Council history, not through poor tactics or bad luck, but because the enemy was simply beyond anything they could fight. "Evacuation ships are launching now," he continued, "but we can only save about half the population before the entities arrive." "What about the rest?" "There is no rest, Chancellor. Either we save them or we lose them." As they watched, evacuation ships began fleeing Council Central. Millions of aliens crowded into cargo holds and passenger compartments. Families were separated. Children cried for parents they would never see again. The entities arrived 6 hours later. The Council's last great battle was also its shortest. 300 warships attacked the entities with everything they had. The entities absorbed the weapons fire and grew stronger. Within minutes, the entire fleet was gone. Council Central itself lasted only slightly longer. The entities flowed over the space stations like water over rocks. Ancient buildings that had stood for thousands of years crumbled into dust. Libraries, full of galactic history, vanished. Art treasures from 100 worlds were consumed. The heart of galactic civilization died in less than an hour. From her refugee ship, Thyluna watched her life's work disappear. She had served the Council for 60 years. She had believed in unity between species, in peace through cooperation, in the power of civilization to solve any problem. Now she was just another refugee fleeing through space. "Chancellor," her communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the entity fleet. They can communicate?" "It appears so. The message is strange," Thyluna nodded. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was not a voice at all. It was a chorus of sounds that seemed to speak directly to their minds. The words were in perfect Council standard, but they felt wrong somehow. "We are the collective," the voice said. "We are the hunger that waits in the dark. We are the end of all things." "Why are you doing this?" Thyluna asked, though she wasn't sure the entities could hear her. "You spread too far," the collective replied. "You built too much. You disturbed our sleep with your noise and light and life. Now we wake. Now we feed. Now we grow. We can negotiate," Tyluna said desperately. "We can give you what you want without destroying everything. You have nothing we want except your existence. You are matter and energy. We consume matter and energy. You are food." The transmission ended. In the weeks that followed, the Council tried everything they could think of. They sent diplomats to negotiate with the entities. The diplomats were consumed. They tried to hide on distant worlds. The entities found them. They even tried to surrender, offering to serve the collective in exchange for their lives. The entities weren't interested in servants. They were only interested in feeding. That's when Veltar finally admitted the truth. The former counselor sat in the refugee camp on Sanctuary Station, one of the last safe places in Council space. He was old now, his blue skin faded and wrinkled. Most of his wealth and power were gone. All he had left was guilt. "It was my fault," he said to the small crowd gathered around him. "I led the opposition to the humans. I convinced the Council that they were dangerous." A young Zephyrian refugee looked at him with angry eyes. "Why? What did the humans ever do to you?" Veltar was quiet for a long moment. "They made me feel stupid," he finally said. "Every time they proposed something new I couldn't understand. Their ideas were too different from ours, too advanced." He looked down at his hands. "I was afraid that if other species realized how smart the humans were, they would stop listening to us older species. We had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. We didn't want to admit that a young species might know things we didn't. So, you drove them away," another refugee said. "Yes, I convinced myself that humans were primitive and dangerous. I ignored their warnings about the void sector. I rejected their research proposals. I blocked their technology sharing." Veltar stood up slowly, his forearms shaking with age and emotion. 3 years ago, the humans tried to warn us about exactly this threat. Captain Lee Teho brought evidence of entity movement in the void sector. I dismissed his warnings as human paranoia. The crowd around him grew larger as more refugees stopped to listen. Dr. Kim Yuna developed faster-than-light communication that could have warned our outer colonies about entity attacks. I voted against approving her research. What else? Someone called out. Medical technology that could have helped us understand entity biology. Weapons that adapted to enemy defenses. Computer systems that could process multiple dimensions of data. Veltar looked up at the ceiling of the refugee station, which was starting to show stress cracks from the overcrowding. The humans offered us everything we needed to survive this crisis, and I threw it all away because I was too proud to admit they were smarter than us. The crowd was silent. Many of them had supported Veltar's anti-human policies. They had cheered when the humans left. They had called it a victory for Council independence. Now they understood what that victory had cost them. "Is there any way to contact them?" asked Dr. Zarkemp, who had been listening from the back of the crowd. "I don't know," Veltar said. "We don't even know where they went. They used some kind of portal technology that was centuries ahead of anything we understood." "Then we have to try to find them," Tyluna said, stepping forward. "It's our only hope." "How?" Veltar asked. "They could be anywhere in the universe. And even if we found them, why would they help us? We treated them terribly for 30 years. "Because that's what humans do," said an old Etherian refugee. "I worked with humans for decades. They always helped people who needed help, even people who had been mean to them." "Maybe," Tyluna said. "But first we have to find them." Dr. Zarkemp activated his datapad again. "I've been studying the energy signature from the portal they used to leave. It's unlike anything in our physics, but there might be a way to track it." "How long would that take?" "Months, maybe years. And we'd need resources I don't have access to anymore." Tyluna looked around the refugee station. Millions of homeless aliens. No money, no ships, no hope. The Council was broken, their civilization was ending. But maybe, just maybe, they could still save some of their people. "Then we'd better get started," she said. Outside the station, long-range sensors detected more entity fleets moving through space. They were consuming the last free worlds in Council territory. Soon, there would be nowhere left to run, unless they could find the humans who had tried to warn them. 5 years after leaving the Galactic Council, President Kim Ji-ho stood on the observation deck of New Earth Station. Through the massive windows, he could see the human colonies spreading across the Andromeda approach. Dozens of worlds, hundreds of space stations, millions of humans building a new civilization. It was beautiful. The humans had accomplished in 5 years what the Council had taken centuries to build. Their new technology made everything possible. Cities that floated in gas giant atmospheres, farms that grew in the vacuum of space, ships that could travel between galaxies in weeks instead of millennia. "Mr. President," his aide said, "the morning briefing is ready." Kim Ji-ho nodded and walked to the conference room. Around the table sat the leaders of humanity's new government, Fleet Admiral Yoon Seora, who commanded their defense forces, Dr. Han Woo-jin, who led their research programs, Captain Oh Mi-ran, their best pilot and explorer. "What's our status?" Kim Ji-ho asked. "Colony growth is ahead of schedule," Admiral Yoon reported. "We now have 47 settled worlds and over 300 mining operations. Population is approaching 100 million. And our technology development?" Dr. Han Woo-jin smiled. "Beyond our wildest dreams. The quantum enhancement programs have given us capabilities the Council never imagined. Our people are stronger, smarter, and more adaptable than ever before." "Show him the new ships," Captain Oh Mi-ran suggested. Dr. Han activated a hologram showing a sleek vessel that looked more like a work of art than a warship. It was long and smooth, with energy flowing along its hull in beautiful patterns. "This is the HSS New Horizon," he explained. "It can travel across entire galaxies in days. Its weapons can reshape matter at the quantum level. Its shields exist in 17 dimensions simultaneously." Kim Ji-ho was impressed but not surprised. Human innovation had accelerated dramatically since leaving Council space. Without aliens telling them their ideas were too dangerous or too primitive, human scientists had accomplished miracles. "Any word from the old galaxy?" he asked. The mood in the room changed. Everyone knew what was happening in Council space. They had been monitoring the situation from the beginning. "The entity infestation is almost complete," Admiral Yoon said quietly. "Less than 10% of Council territory remains free. We estimate that over 90 billion aliens have been consumed." Kim Ji-ho felt a pang of sadness. He had never wanted this to happen. Even after all the discrimination and rejection, he didn't wish death on the Council species. "Any contact attempts?" 17 so far, said his communications director. "All using outdated technology that barely reaches across the galactic void. They're asking for help." "What do our analysts think?" Dr. Han Woo-jin pulled up another display. This one showed the entities that were destroying Council space. The humans had been studying them since the crisis began. "The entities are what we call void feeders," he explained. "They exist primarily in higher dimensions, but can manifest in our reality when they need to feed. They've been dormant for millions of years." What woke them up? The Council's aggressive expansion into the void sectors. For the last 1,000 years, the Council has been building further and further into empty space. They disturbed something that should have been left alone. Kim Ji-ho studied the data. The entities were incredibly dangerous, but they weren't unstoppable. Human science had found ways to fight them. The question was whether humanity should fight them. "Could we stop the entities if we wanted to?" he asked. "Yes," Dr. Han said confidently. "Our dimensional weapons and adaptive AI would be effective against them. It would be a difficult war, but we could win it." "At what cost?" "Minimal human casualties if we're careful, but we'd have to act fast before the entities grow too powerful." Kim Ji-ho was quiet for a long moment. Outside the windows, he could see human children playing in zero-gravity parks. Human families enjoying lives free from alien prejudice. Human scientists working on projects that would benefit all humanity. "Sir," Admiral Yoon said gently, "there's something else you should know." She activated another display showing a small fleet of ships approaching human space. The ships were old and damaged, clearly refugee vessels. "A council delegation is requesting permission to enter our territory. They want to speak with you personally." "How many ships?" 12. "About 50,000 refugees total. They're the last survivors from Council Central." Kim Ji-ho recognized some of the ship designs. He had seen them during his years as an ambassador. These were the remnants of the government that had rejected humanity for 30 years. "Are any of our old friends among them?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Former Chancellor Thai Luna is leading the delegation. Dr. Zar Kemp is with them." And she paused. Former Counselor Veltar, the man who had led the anti-human faction for decades, the alien who had called humans primitive and dangerous, the politician who had blocked every human proposal out of pride and prejudice. What do they want? Help, sir. They're asking us to save what's left of their people. Kim Ji-ho looked around the table at his advisors. These were good people who had worked hard to build a better life for humanity. They deserved to enjoy the fruits of their labor in peace. But in the distance, an entire galaxy was dying. Bring them aboard, he said finally. I'll hear what they have to say. 2 hours later, Kim Ji-ho sat across from the alien delegation in the station's diplomatic lounge. The room was designed to be comfortable for multiple species, with adjustable lighting and atmosphere controls. The aliens looked terrible. Thyluna's silver skin was dull with exhaustion. Dr. Zarkemp's scales were falling out from stress. Veltar looked like he had aged decades in the past few years. President Kim, Thyluna said formally. Thank you for agreeing to see us. Chancellor Thyluna, Kim Ji-ho replied with equal formality. You were always fair to my people. That earns you a hearing. He looked at Veltar. Counselor Veltar, I'm surprised to see you here. Veltar's 4 arms hung limply at his sides. His proud bearing was gone, replaced by shame and defeat. President Kim, he said quietly, I owe you an apology. Actually, I owe your entire species an apology. For what? For being a fool. For letting my pride blind me to the truth. For driving away the one species that could have saved us all. Kim. Ji-ho studied the broken alien. Veltar had once been one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Now he was just a refugee begging for help. What exactly are you asking for? Kim Ji-ho said. Save our people, Thyluna said simply. Whatever's left of them. We know we have no right to ask this. We know we treated humanity terribly, but our children are dying. Our worlds are burning. You're our only hope. Dr. Zarkemp activated a data pad showing casualty reports. Billions of innocents who never voted against human proposals. Entire species that didn't even know humans existed. They're all going to die unless someone helps them. Kim Ji-ho felt the weight of decision. He could save these people, but it would mean sending human soldiers into danger. It would mean risking the peaceful life humanity had built. Why should we help you? He asked. For 30 years you told us our ideas were worthless. You rejected our warnings. You drove us out of our homes. Give me one good reason why humans should risk their lives for the species that hated them. Veltar stood up slowly. Because that's who you are, he said. Humans help people who need help, even people who have been cruel to them. It's what makes you better than us. He paused and looked directly at Kim Ji-ho. We spent so much time trying to prove that humans were primitive and dangerous. But the truth is, you're the most civilized species in the galaxy. You're the only ones who judge people by their actions instead of their species. You're the only ones who always try to do what's right. Kim Ji-ho felt a mixture of anger and sadness. These aliens were asking him to prove their point about human nobility. They wanted him to be the better person, even after they had been so cruel. What about the entities? He asked. Can you tell us anything that might help fight them? Dr. Zarkemp shared what little information the council had gathered. It wasn't much, but it confirmed some of the humans' theories about void feeders. We have some research data, he said, but we never understood it properly. Human science was always too advanced for us to follow. Kim Ji-ho made his decision. We will help you, he said, but not the way you expect. He stood and walked to the window overlooking human space. We will not save the council. The council is dead, and good riddance. It was a corrupt system that valued tradition over progress and prejudice over justice. The aliens looked confused and frightened. But we will save innocent people, Kim Ji-ho continued. We will evacuate refugees who had nothing to do with the council's decisions. We will give them new homes in neutral space where they can build better societies. And the entities? Thyluna asked. We will contain them, Kim Ji-ho said. We will stop their advance and force them back into the void where they belong. But we will not risk human lives to save council worlds that treated us like enemies. Veltar bowed his head. That is more mercy than we deserve. Yes, Kim Ji-ho agreed. It is. Over the following months, human fleets began the largest rescue operation in galactic history. Ships equipped with dimensional shields and quantum weapons penetrated entity-controlled space to evacuate survivors. Millions of aliens were transported to safety.